Yes, sir. What's happening?
Everything's fine. What about you?
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm just hoping. Hang on, let me just do something to the camera, and hopefully that will make it even. Yes or no?
Okay.
Maybe not. Okay, that's cool. Am I clear? Can you see me?
Yeah, everything's clear. You're lagging a little bit, but everything's fine. The audio's perfect. I think the headphones are doing a lot. Yeah, everything's fine by this side.
Excellent.
On this side?
Yes. Like where you're frozen, you're lagging a little bit, but I can hear you, but the camera's a bit slow.
I don't know why that's happening because my internet connection seems to be quite alright. But like the important stuff is, the talking. So if at one point you can't hear me or I'm lagging, just let me know. I'll just repeat myself until the end, okay?
That's fine. That's no problem.
Yeah, awesome. Nevertheless, I want to do these live, man. When we meet and everything, I want to get my gear, get the cameras and everything and make it properly. But right now, the way it is right now, I can't do that.
We're in different countries, so, thank God for technology so we can still connect and talk and everything like that,
Exactly. I'm just grateful that we can do it, especially like in these times. I'm grateful for that. So, right, now that you said about the different countries, tell me a little bit, how is it there in the UK?
The UK is a very interesting stage. So I'm just keeping an eye on my cat. She's here.
Everything's fine.
The UK is in a very strange place. Okay, I'm going to let her out. 1 second. Give me one moment.
Just go with the cat.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, the UK is not in a very good way at the moment. We've now been divided into like 5 layers, what they call tiers of and that kind of determines how serious the situation was with COVID. What's happened is in London, I'm based in London for those who listen who don't know that, but they've found a mutation of the virus, which is spreading much faster.
That's why I'm asking. I read about that. That's why. Please keep going because we read about that and we want to know what's going on there. From inside.
Yes. So they've and at the moment, what they're saying is they're not quite sure that it's more serious than the original version. They don't know if, for example, this new vaccine that's just started to come out here, it may still be able to protect, so they say. But what they think's happening at the moment is this virus is spreading much quicker. It's much more contagious, and they think that kids are probably much more a kind of the catalyst for the spreading. So
that's the main issue there.
Yeah, one of the big issues is in the original lockdown, everything was closed. After that, they kept schools open. So even when the place was locked down again, they kept the schools open. And a lot of people weren't happy about that because, naturally, kids don't have any space awareness. Kids they're just doing their thing and they're clustered. And there was
hard to manage.
Absolutely. And so a lot of people been angry for a long time. So right now, the mood in London, but especially in England, is anger. I think leadership has come across real bad at the moment. And because we also have Brexit, which was such a big problem anyway, people are just like double angry now because obviously England at the moment, we're not sealing any deals to secure moving out of Brexit. But then we also now, we don't seem to be, we seem to be back in where we was in March. We've gone right back and now we're in lockdown. So London and the Southeast and Wales are currently down at the serious point of lockdown. The rest of the country is the level below us, but they're thinking about bringing the whole country into the same lockdown, which I think if you're going to do it, it makes sense. Either you do it or you don't do it.
Exactly.
And I think the biggest problem with England has just been the leadership. And obviously, understandably, it's nobody's had this before in our lifetime, so it's a new thing. But I think the rules just wasn't clear. So on one level, you could do something, but then in a certain situation, you can't do that something. So people just really didn't know what was going on. And that's been the story of this year. Nobody understood what the instructions were.
Yeah, but I believe that was the situation all over the place, wasn't it? Like in all countries, like the message wasn't clear enough. So the people didn't know exactly what to do, especially in March, as you said, like the first lockdown. I feel like that was the reason for the panic itself, because most of the people, if you talk to them, you know, people coming from the countryside and things like that, didn't really get the how hard and how bad the virus is. But they did understand based on the way mass media, you know, publicize it. It's something really bad. Something just gotta panic now. Everybody just panicked, you know.
Yes.
I believe that was the message, and the way they promoted was all wrong in my opinion. I swear to God, like the message should be just make your immune system better. You know, methods to work on it, methods to what to eat, what to drink, how much sleep should I get, how much should I train, what vitamins should I take, you know. And I feel like that was, especially in Romania and especially in the US. I don't live in the US, but you know, we follow news. I feel like that was the biggest problem anywhere. And right now, as you said, I don't think this is only going on with the UK. I saw Germany's lockdown now. If I'm not mistaken, if somebody watches, I'm saying, but based on news, that's what's going on. That's what we see. And I believe the Netherlands are on the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I don't believe that it's exclusive to. I don't think it's exclusive to England. And I know what seems to be really interesting is it seems to really be impacting either the European countries or Eurocentric countries, or just basically countries that are kind of what you'd call developed. Because like one of the narratives at the moment in London is Black and Asian people are kind of being deemed to be at risk, more higher risk than everybody else for catching the virus.
Why is that?
Well, again, it hasn't really been very clear. So, and that alone has caused a lot of anger and frustration amongst ethnic minorities. Now, for me, my suspicion is, if you're talking about, say, in the Black community, a lot of Black people are doing what they call frontline jobs, whether that's like in the hospitals, whether that's what they call key workers. So key workers will be working with children in care, or you're just working in education roles like youth clubs and stuff like that. In Asian families, and again, particularly in Asian, like Southern Asian families, the family hub is not like in English families, it's more nuclear, whereas in Asian families, it's a hub where the grandparents are almost central to everything that happens. So in these families, people move together, you know, as part of this, what's the strength of the community is how all the generations come together. So I guess if there's going to be some transferring of a virus, of course, from that narrative, it's going to be a lot more higher. Also, other things that they've identified is that where Asian and Black people are often it's in poor areas. And so areas where it's more poverty, the risk of infection and transmission is a lot higher. Yeah. So I think sometimes it's dangerous to just say it's Asian and Black people without giving the full picture, because then it feeds into this narrative of, these people come from third world countries, they spread diseases over there, and now you're over here, you're picking up disease. It's a very dangerous narrative if you don't explain it.
Yeah, it is. And they really like to focus on that, don't they? Like they focus on the fact that, Asian people, they live a lot of people together in one household, and they don't have to show that in mass media, for example, So, yeah, I don't know. So folks, okay, let's back it up a little bit. So this mutation of the virus is only going on at the moment in the UK, do you think? Because I didn't see any news about it on other places, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because again, I try not to get too hot onto the news myself. But with this whole recent kind of upgrade of the tier system, the levels, I started to take a little bit more interest, just because of the way it happened. It came quickly. There was no warning. You just literally had about 5 hours to be told that we're going into, So, and that was the first time I heard discussions about a possible mutation about a month ago. But this was actually the first point. So when I say this, it was on Saturday. That was the first point where I heard about.
What you mean this Saturday?
Yeah, it's happened this Saturday.
Bloody hell.
So it was literally like I was out. I was doing some work on the street, some charity work, and then someone checked their phone and said, "Oh, we're going into lockdown from tonight, midnight." So it literally was. You just had people had hours. So then you had a mass panic of people that live in London, especially London has a lot of people that don't necessarily live in the city, they're from other parts of the country. So if you're going into lockdown, you can't travel. So within those hours, there was like a rush for people going to the train stations to get their trains, to go home, to stay with their family. So naturally, it creates a little bit of panic, and then obviously it's on social media, people have an opinion and all of that sort of thing.
Especially on social media. I was just talking with a friend about it, that we are lucky. Then in Romania, for example, Twitter is not a thing. People know about it, but they don't use it. I don't know about in the UK, but when you look on Twitter, man, I swear to God, people are just sick as heck. Like, everybody wants to say something. Usually it's negative.
Yeah.
And usually it's something that they don't have the balls to say it live.
Yeah.
And okay, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because I'm just watching it through a video, maybe 1,000 miles away. So it's kind of it gives me more of that power.
Yeah, for sure. Power. I mean, Twitter, so Twitter is very big. And I would say Twitter is the intellectual, political version of Facebook. So Facebook is kind of like, you know, your friends and your family network, you know, and I think people can tend to be a little bit more abusive. You tend to get a lot more kind of fake news and incorrect stuff that circulates on Facebook. Twitter is you're supposed to be a little bit more informed, but nevertheless, people's comments are still heated. It's emotionally loaded. People, you know, but it often has much more of a political spin to it, shall I say. So people that are more intellectual, we use Twitter.
Yeah, but you updated on the negative side, aren't you? Because there's clickbait shit going on, isn't it?
Well,
most of the news that I see there.
I think it's human nature. You know, we're addicted to, we complain, but we're addicted to negativity. And I don't know why. I mean, I think maybe there's a little bit of a security part of it. If you kind of gear yourself up for negativity, it can't hit you by surprise. Like, I think most people don't mind being surprised with good news because there's no threat. You know, if it's good news, it's only good news. But
it's nothing engaging.
Say that again.
Because there's nothing engaging in normal good news.
And it's nothing in this engaging. And I guess, like you said, there's no threat. If someone told you, oh, you've won £1 million, well, it's just an addition to your situation. Whereas there's something about maybe having bad news being thrown at you without any preparation is a whole kind of crisis moment you get into. So maybe that's kind of part of why as humans we are slightly addicted to negativity, whether that's about maybe being in control, trying to be in control, kind of looking out, being on the lookout, so that just like in the old days where you had old villages and towns and tribes, you know, your lookout was on a high hill. So you're looking to see what's around. So maybe it's the same sort of version of that is on social media. We look out for the bad news.
Exactly. I feel like social media just transformed this craving for drama and for fighting. You know, it kind of enhances it a little bit. Especially if I was actually associating in, I don't know if you're gonna back me up on this, but boredom actually pushes you into that. Like into trying to, you know what I mean? To see if somebody else feels like this about a subject that, you know, you don't necessarily feel exactly like that, like the way you type it, you know, like full of hate. But when you see like maybe 150 people that back you up, maybe it's like, okay, so maybe that my anger is going somewhere and people help me with it. You know? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always said, well, social media really enhances who we are, first of all. So it's not even that social media creates us. This is who we are, and we're now seeing it. And again, addiction to negativity is part of who we are. What I'd also say around that is, remind me of what you just said. You said something, and my head went to a different direction. No, I was actually talking. Yeah, I was saying that. Especially if you have something negative to say about a subject, especially if it's a subject that's blown up. Because that's the main thing, isn't it? That's the main thing. That's the main thing. Yeah, you feel like I'm the voice of some of the people, you know? Maybe you can hit, I don't know, 2,000 opinions, negative opinions that you don't really believe in, but they back you up. So you kind of feel, it feels good in a way, isn't it?
That's what I was going to say. The feel-good factor. The feel-good factor of being kind of people giving you like, I agree with you, you're right. And it's funny because I did a course a couple of days ago a few weeks ago, around community activism. Basically looking at how do you get people from the community who come together for a cause? How do you mobilize and how do you activate to make people do something? And there's a lot to it. There's a lot of strategies. There's a lot of processes around communication, relationship building, understanding your situation, speaking to those people, working out who makes decisions. all of these sorts of things that are coming to place in order to do something that sparks change. Essentially, most of us, we're not really about that. We just talk about it. So really, a lot of us are just in it for the feel-good factor of saying something, and hopefully people agreeing with you. And if they don't, then you can have a virtual fight. Again, a fight that you're never going to have in person, but it's virtual. And maybe at the end of that, you've said something that makes them wrong, and then you feel good. So there's something about our addiction to being right. Our addiction to this sort of short-term gain is what we're seeing on social media. The concept of change and really coming out of a situation, I don't think we're really about that. And this is why you'll continue to hear people complaining about the government, and the government will just continue to do what they're going to do, because essentially people just are loyal to complaining rather than loyal to change. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, nice, man. This last one was the best. Yeah, you're right. I feel like it has a lot to do with tribalism. I don't know if tribalism. Being part of something. Because, for example, our case, right? We would have never met if we weren't dancers.
For sure, right? So that's one of the things. So now that we met through dance, now I say on a podcast, oh look, I met this guy through dance, and there's a big part of I'm proud of this thing.
Yes. In the back of my message. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, so now that we're let's say in a room, we're like 20 dancers or something, right? There is this natural, biological, feeling that you want to be the voice, you want to be the one that talks above all the others, even though they're your friends, even though they're enemies, doesn't matter, that's what social media gives you through those likes on the comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying, please go on.
Go on, please. I want to hear that.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Yeah. Because social media has evolved a lot. Like in the beginning, you think about, because you just mentioned that most of us are what we are through social media. So what social media shows, that's what we are. Yeah. But to be honest, if you think about it, this just became a thing like more recently, once you matured. The social media platform matured a lot. Because in the beginning, what was it? You had to follow trends that you can do on Facebook, right? So people were just taking pictures of, I don't know, I'm going in a trip. So you didn't even know why you're doing it. I'm doing it too. It's something new on social media, right?
Well, okay, so when we got it here in England, it was, let me get this right, I think it was 2007, and it was literally Facebook for those people, like so from my generation. It was literally, and I say my generation because of my age. At the time, it was Friends Reunited, and that was a social network that meant that you can reconnect with your old school friends. Then when that kind of came to an end, Facebook became the new version of Friends Reunited. So I think the role of social media over the years has changed. And it's become a lot more instant. So if something's happening, you put it on and you react to it. Social media back then wasn't so reactionary. It really wasn't. Well, it was much more kind of like it was almost like your CV for whoever your friends were. That so like is that Simon? I used to talk to Simon 10 years ago, and he's put a couple of pictures. Yeah, that's Simon. That's how I remembered him. That was what Facebook was. And then over the years, it's changed. And then obviously they've added new things. I think the reason why I say that this is very much like, this is a reflection of who we are is because, again, we have this kind of culture in the community where, your neighbors, you're looking at what your neighbors are doing, but you're not talking to them about it. Oh, look what she's doing. Oh, they've got a new car. Oh, what's that? What they bought for they? We have this mindset. When Big Brother first was introduced to TV, we loved it because all of a sudden you got to see how people brush their teeth. You see how they kind of put their socks on in the morning. We saw everything. But we didn't actually want any more than that. We like, all of a sudden being outraged about something was a regular thing, because now it wasn't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news to tell us something to be outraged about. Exactly. You had all these stories. You know what I mean? You had all these stories. So I feel like it's a combination of the fact that that's how we are, but then now it's been bombarded because it's connected with this endorphin. So now we have an addiction to it, whereas before it was just part of who we were,
It's almost an extension of ourselves, isn't it, right now? And it became a hell more accessible. That's the first thing. I feel like after 2012 in particular, I feel like after 2012, most of the phones could run most of the apps. kind of flawlessly. Right now they're flawless. You think about it. If you get a bug, it's gonna get fixed in like 15 minutes. It's crazy, isn't it?
Right.
The devices that we carry are more expensive than our cars. So things changed a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you cringe a lot if I drop my phone, I got like 4 seconds of complete panic shut off of the system. You can't move, right? Because you know how much you're paying for the damn thing, right?
Absolutely.
But it kind of, and you talked about CVs, that Facebook used to be like a CV for the persons. Now that's Instagram now, especially for artists. If you think about it, the first thing that people do, what is it? Like, I'm checking there. Let me see a video. Let me see something. What can this kid do? You know?
Absolutely.
Then we're gonna build up together. Yeah. So it's a positive.
That's interesting because you say, because you're going to say it's a positive, and I'd like to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, I feel like it's it's a blessing to live in these times, right? If you think about it, I can send you a picture of a baby girl that you can't see it because you're in 5 countries away. You can see it right away, like in milliseconds, isn't it? Or like, especially how these online battles and everything went on, right? I saw online contests in art, right? In drawing, crayon drawing. I saw online contests in 3D modeling that people just blow up, man. You know what I mean? So yes, of course, we have this TikTok type of shit. If you want, we can talk about it. I fucking hate it. Doesn't matter. Get on the side. But we have this possibility of artists that just blow up. They didn't have a name before, but they have the talent. They put the work in, right? So if you can figure out, yes, of course. I want to talk a little bit about this. Maybe you can give us some advice in this department. Of course, you have to know a little bit of thing, right? How do I present my stuff? How do I picture it? How do I edit my videos? How blah blah. But back then, to do this type of presence internationally, it was a shitload of work compared to this, right?
Absolutely.
You can get it right once out of 15 times, and that one thing is gonna blow you up. So it's amazing.
100%. I mean, you know, again, when Facebook first came out, it was on your laptop, so you literally went on your Facebook once a day, you know, and that would have been quite regular, and it would have been after you came home from work, because you couldn't have done it in your workplace. You had to wait till you get home, then you go on, you know, say 5 in the evening, check and see, oh, no one messaged you, and you kept it moving. So it was still very much back then just a small part of your life, whereas, like you say, it's on your phone, so everything is there, it's instant. I have a mixed relationship with social media and dance at the moment. I really have because I see the benefits of it, and what it's allowed me to do as somebody who's been quite a teacher in the UK scene, and you know, I'm good at holding relationships, so it's allowed me to kind of really hold good relationships when I travel around the country and I speak to people. We can talk about things. I can share my thoughts, philosophies, knowledge, whatever. But I think you're
a damn good talker as well.
Well, cool. Thank you very much. I hope so.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And I was going to say that what I think the bit that I struggle with is that now you have access to the world scene. And I've realized at one level it's pretty cool, because then, you know, you get to see all these people that everyone's been speaking about, but then I think it's become too accessible. And so what ends up happening now is every time you go to an event, my observation is that you compare that person that you've seen in front of you to the best person you've seen on the clip. And now your judgment of that is based on that. So what I find happening now is I find generally people are no longer present with each other when they're watching each other dancing. And I'm talking about, true. You know what I'm saying? Because in your mind, you're watching, well, do they tick the boxes of the people that I look up to? As opposed to before you had all of that, you appreciated someone just off of the back that they were interested in what you do, even if their standards wasn't that good. And I think the concept of community was a lot more genuine back then. It was less judgmental. And yes, of course, our egos means that you're going to want to be better. You want to be the best, but you appreciated it in the space that you was in right there. Nowadays, I feel like people's choice of who they network with is based on their popularity, how successful they are. All of those things has a play into how people decide they're going to invest in a relationship. And I find it comes a little bit too strategic and too corporate for me.
Well, it is a little bit, but a lot of this, I feel like a lot of this has to how you live. I'll give you an example. You said about an event, right? So you meet somebody, you make the expectations based on what you see on the best of the best on social media, which is actually true. I believe we both do it. Everybody does it. Yeah, but it's the way you leave your house. which I found that works. So what do I want to do at this event, right? So if I just want to enjoy the music, I want to have a beer with somebody and I want to dance my ass off, right? That's what I'm going to focus on. My phone is going to stay in the pocket. I'm not going to look at anybody else. What do they think? What are they going to say about me and something like that? Mm-hmm. And then I believe that the human has the power to stop that ego going on, right? But on the other side, I agree with you, and I think it has a positive thing to it, doesn't it? Because now it's in full-on industry, and that allows a lot of people to make a lot of money out of it and to live a healthy life based on what we love to do, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing. The other side of it was people like me, for example, right? How long have you been dancing?
20 years.
20 bloody years. Oh my God. Awesome, man. Okay. So people like me, for example, never saw what maybe somebody like you is even talking about. Do you know what I mean? You can hear it. You can hear it through stories and everything. We were just jamming, we were having fun on the streets, having fun at parties. And I'm like, awesome, I had a party myself. But then when you compare it, if the two of us would sit to talk and compare the way my vision of the party is and your vision of the party is, I've never seen that in my life. So I don't know what's lost in the process.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
I can't pinpoint what we lost.
Yeah. I mean, it's mad because, I'm not going to be one to say social media is good or social media is bad, because I don't think I'm there. What I've recognized is it's down to, at least at this stage, and again, my thoughts could change as time goes on. And I think things should, because, you're always learning new information.
Oh, they usually do, man. We live two different humans after this podcast only.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I would say I'm at a process where I'm still, forming my relationship with the internet, because obviously things have changed, and so we try to play catch up, or at least you're trying to understand what is this space, how is it the best way to be used. You see some people being successful with it, you see some people not so successful. Where do I fit in this process? Yeah. But then also, you then have to listen to yourself, and often that's the bit that we should be doing first, but we don't, because no one teaches us how to. How do I feel? Okay, the next man is doing this. Do I want to do this? So I think it's at a place of deciding. We've got to decide, how do we want to use this internet and what do we want from it? I've made a decision that for me, what's most important is ground roots, community, connection, people. Awesome. Regardless of your profile, regardless of your standard of your dancing, that's more important to me. So now I have to understand, with that in my mind, if I post something, I may not get 1,000 likes, and I have to be okay with that.
You gotta assume that to yourself, that decision. So you said that a couple of people, like there's the half of people that are really successful, and you got the other half that are not doing so well. So I think everybody has that idea, right? They're like, okay, I want to be successful as well. So let me check what are my possibilities here? What are my options? So for me, for example, that's why I said in the beginning, fuck TikTok. I actually kind of mean it in a way I don't, but it's funny. Okay. I meant it in a way, because I was like, okay, what are the current trends, right? What works today, right? And what I like about social media and the things that are going right now is, for example, this podcasting, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, this is like the free radio.
Yeah,
right now,
of course, for
right?
sure.
The fact that we have right now, we're talking with video as well, or we're gonna talk live, is another thing. The audio that you get is free radio, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not censored, nothing like that, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, it's a thing that's going on right now. People are actually interested in it, and they're familiar with the concept, so I can try it myself. Then I was like looking at TikTok, right? So you just make these small videos, and I'm a dancer as well, right? I got my videos, I got my camera, I know how to edit the videos. So I was like, that's fine. I'll just make the 10, 15 seconds videos. I tried it, but you can feel at one point, you have to admit if you fucking hate it, right?
Yeah.
It was hard in the beginning because I was like, come on, I'm just lazy. That's why I'm not doing them, right? You give that to yourself. Yeah. You think you're just lazy and that's why you're not doing them. But then you end up doing a normal video, and I was editing that thing for like 3 nights and never posted it. But do you know what I mean? That's because I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because my relationship with TikTok. So TikTok, a year before it kicked off, someone told me, Alex, get on it. But the problem was, in my head, I couldn't visualize what I was getting out of it. So at that point, I hadn't seen TikTok. All I just heard it was a big thing. then eventually, and the thing is, admittedly, two things about me, I've learned in recent years that naturally I'm not great at change. I'm not the fastest to change, and also, I have a bit of a negative relationship with technology. So those two things kicked into play straight away. So I was asking myself.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I want to keep this for a second. When you say negative relationship with technology, what do you mean actually? Because you have a shitload of videos and amazing ones. I believe you had your own radio, right?
I'm on radio. Yeah.
Radio station. Yeah, awesome, man.
A radio show. So it's not my station. It's a radio show that I've got.
Okay, All right. But if you think about it, that reaches the internet as well. So what do you mean actually? Can you detail a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just literally the use of technology. I'm not the most savvy when it comes to knowing what to do, how this works. So what happens is and I've always been that way inclined. I was never quick with the computers, and it never captured me. So actually, the fact that social media and technology is excelled at such a fast rate, it's always been quite hard for me, because I've always felt when it comes to relating to technology, I feel like I'm out of my league. So
okay.
like for example, I don't know, I like dancing. I love music. So if we had to talk about that will flow. If you ask me to talk about chemistry, I'll struggle because it's not my thing. And it's the same with technology. Technology, I understood that it was something that is needed, but I was never really confident with it. So what I'm saying is, when my friend recommended me to use TikTok, in my head I was like, oh man, another thing to download. I'm gonna have to learn how it works, and all of that's kicking in my head as well.
Yeah.
Right. But then also when I began to see TikTok unfolding, it looked fun. And although I've never gone on TikTok myself, but I understand you can go down the rabbit hole of watching videos.
Absolutely.
But when I looked at it, so people were saying to me, Alex, get it, man. You can get your following quick. You can get big followers quickly. But in my head, I was like, yeah, but what do I want big followers for what? Like, I don't want a bunch of kids following me, but none of them can buy a product from me. I'm more interested in doing something where I can earn some money, so I can then help better. I can help people better. I don't just want 20,000 young people who are just looking at my video as well as 50 other videos. That's not really what I'm interested in. So I think even with TikTok, yes, even now I haven't got it, simply because I haven't understood what I would use it for, what am I actually going to get from it.
No, I understand what you mean. Well, the app, if you think about it, the way the app was developed and the reason behind it is absolutely genius, because they figured out that people don't have patience at all. And of course, I talked about this with Jesse before. People don't have time, right? Because you're working, you go home, you see your wife, blah, blah. Maybe you have like a 1 or 2 hours free. Usually for us, for example, we train for people that don't work as dancers. Or maybe you just watch a movie, you have a meal, that's it. So they realize that you can put a shitload of content if you reduce the length of the videos, of the things that you're watching. So at the point that they're not pictures, right? So we just get away from pictures. Yeah, that's what they realized. So that's why you go, as you said, to the rabbit hole. Because I've used it, right? You can follow some channels that are actually educational and everything, just like Instagram is. So you can check and you fall in the rabbit hole. But then in the end of it, I realized when you stop the app, you don't remember shit.
That's it.
I'm serious. You can't keep my interest for 10 seconds and expect me to actually remember everything tomorrow, right? So it's not like I have a conversation with, I don't know, a nice girl or something like that. It's impossible. The brain doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
You don't even get, like, if you go to a great lecture, chances are you're going to get in your state of flow.
Yes.
It's going to happen. If the subject is that engaging, it's going to happen. So that's why I'll never forget that thing. And even if I forget it, I will have the interest to go back to it and
revisit it. Yeah, absolutely.
And revisit it. Exactly. So they focused on that thing, and it works. Of course it works, because social media, it's all about that. But what happened here, right, was different, because Instagram didn't die. They just adapted, because of course Instagram is owned by Facebook. They just adapted. They put in this Reels thing.
Reels,
right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so if I want to make exactly the opposite, like what I'm doing now, I'm doing for the community, of course, right? But I actually like it. I like talking to smart people.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I love these things. So if I can put this long ass video, right, that maybe nobody's going to watch, no problem. I'll just cut the shit out of it, put it in Reels, then you get interest, right? So I feel like it's a constant kind of struggle to find out what you like about these things, because it's a lot of it, right? It's a lot to it. Sorry.
Yes. No, absolutely. And the thing is, like, again, over the last couple of years, I've met a lot of people who are either one, successful, or two, game changers in what they do. And most of them are not necessarily on social media. So that's not to take away the importance of social media. I think it's just about deciding what it is that I want from it. So earlier on this year, I was doing lots of interviews, talking about particular issues that I think were quite close to my heart. And, you know,
give me an example.
I was talking about like Black Lives Matter, or the legacy in the UK. I was talking about men's mental health. I was talking about issues in the dance scene, particular subjects that people wanted to talk about. And that was great. People enjoyed it. But so they could, not even a but. It just got to a point where I was talking to a friend, and I said, you know what? I'm enjoying this, and I'm enjoying that other people enjoying it, but I need something else. I feel like I want to move this forward, and I'm not sure how. So I'm going to stop for a little while, and I need to think about what this looks like for me. And in that time, I've had a chance just to meet people just by luck and chance. And also, as I said, I went on this course around activism. And what I realized is that in order to make the sorts of changes that I want, yes, social media is great, but it has its place. And actually, when I've met people who have actually made changes or gone to the places where the powerful people are to make the changes, it's done away from social media. It's not done on social media. So I think on one level, social media can generate an energy and can generate an interest, but then what do you do with it? I think a lot of us
use it as a tool.
Yeah, it's got to be as a something. And I think for a lot of us, and including myself, it stops at just this. Yes, it's lovely when people message me and say, Alex, I love how you talk. I think what you say is really incredible. That's great. But then there's a whole network that's not on social media where those people have the power to bring the sorts of control that can really make a change. And then I can come back to social media and then talk about those things that are changing and navigate that. So I think
sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I wanted to add something about it, because the thing that I feel like is the most important thing about this social media thing is, I'll give you an example, right? YouTube, we can talk YouTube as social media, right? Because it is. YouTube got me into popping. I'm not saying it's the first time I saw it in my life. Maybe I don't know, maybe I saw it on TV, I can't remember. But by YouTube, I can actually search that word, and I can find somebody that's doing what I like, and I can go work for a couple of months, so get the money, get plane tickets, go and meet people that actually do what I like, or I think I like. I'm not even sure yet, right? And in the future, I will discover that I like a lot. So what you said about the communities that are actually active in certain domains, doesn't matter, and what's going on the live part of the side, right? I feel like social media is just a tool to show bits of it. That's it. So the target is, I'll give you an example, right? Maybe 150 people, I'll give you an example, will watch this talk that we have. But I know for a fact that a minimum of 5 persons would actually get something out of it, right?
Yes.
They will voila, they'll get something important out of it. Oh, it's gonna happen. So, because I was thinking, what I'm doing here, and then we go back to that, is I was thinking as a teacher, right? I want your opinion on this as well. So when I'm teaching, what I really want from like to tell the student, I realize I don't like that much to teach, I don't know, techniques or something, right? I like that person to understand where I'm coming from, what's going on over there, outside of this country and everything, right? And I want the knowledge. Like if I have this thing that if I leave you on an island alone, you'll still know how to train. So that's the purpose of it, right? That's why we're doing this. So if, like, for example, I had somebody right now that asked me about what is this popping thing, and I just said, just go watch the podcast. What podcast? Oh, it's on my page, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you want to find out, just have the patience and just scroll around until you find it, right?
Yeah.
It's cheap as hell because you're not traveling again and paying thousands of euros. but at least, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's a new thing. I feel like we're actually doing a good thing for this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier on, it's you have to find how it works for you. You know, this is just a platform, and there's nothing wrong with a platform. A platform is a platform. It's just how you use it and how you engage, or do you fall into this rabbit hole of just the cycle? Or do you start to bring your thought into it? I would say that, like, as a teacher, for me, when I think about teaching, I have different agendas depending on who I'm working with. So, for example, I've taught people who are very much into learning the culture. So as a teacher, I provide the knowledge that I have. For some people, it's just a space where they build their confidence. For other people, it's a space to have fun. For other people, it's a space to escape. And I think as a teacher, it's my job to be able to facilitate all of those things at different times for different people. It's about knowing your students. It's about connection, and it's about taking them on that journey. My weekly class that I used to have at Pineapple, the majority of the people that turned up to my class were not necessarily popping students. They weren't necessarily people from the scene. They were just people that I think in most cases like me, they like my teaching, and they wanted to be in that space. And it just happens to be that it's popping, so they learn.
Yeah, exactly.
So I also understood that sometimes talking about the culture only is irrelevant, because actually they're just happy to be in this space. But if they enjoy the space, the byproduct is I can now talk about culture.
Exactly. Good point. I talked about it with Jesse. In the beginning, you shouldn't even try to do it. Because people just come there to, move a little bit, have fun a little bit. That's what dancing is about. I think about it. I'm dancing in the club to have fun.
Absolutely.
And then,
we can be, I guess, in the culture, in the scene, we can be slightly guilty of, because of this need to teach the culture, which I get it, we forget why we're really there. So, for example, when I got into popping 20 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to be doing this for 20 years. In fact, if someone showed me that I'll be doing it for 20 years, I probably would have quit, because it's like, okay, this is a bit too much. I just wanted to do something on a Friday. My love for the dance grew with time and with confidence and with trust. So really, I think it's about, when you're building connections, you're building these things: confidence, trust, enjoyment, fun. Because the truth of the matter is, if someone feels good and they feel confident, you don't need to teach. You don't even need to say to them, you have to know the culture, because as a human, you're going to do whatever it takes to repeat that experience. And if you find, and if you know what I mean, if that means learning some history, like anything, if you're in a relationship with someone and you like that partner, you go deeper. No one told you to do it. You do it. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to almost be building more positive relationships as a teacher, and just as a community, because the scene will look after itself. It came here by itself, and it will maintain itself if the people within it are happy and are in a good space. That's what.
Yeah, it's not going away. That's a fact. Exactly. Yeah. And okay, so let's back it up a little bit. How did you start? So how was the scene? No, let's go with how did you start, and then how was the scene back then in the UK, and then how do you feel like it evolved over time?
Sure. Good question. I mean, I could spend an hour just on each one, but I'm gonna be quick.
Well, the good thing is, I think we have an hour, so just go, man.
Cool, no problem. I first saw the movie, what was called Breakdance. I think internationally it's known as Breaking the Movie, but in England it was actually called Breakdance. And it came on TV when I was 7 years old, and I asked my dad to record it, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my God. Something just hit me. And so I was always fascinated with it, but at the same time, the time, people weren't really dancing in my area. So it was like the culture was, if you can do it, it's cool, but boys don't take dance classes. So that was it. I was into football. It was cool. I taught myself how to do a backslide when I was 8 years old, because I saw my friend do it in youth club. I didn't actually take a dance class until I was 20. And the reason why that happened was because Run DMC re-released a track featuring Jason Nevins. It's like that. They'd done a remix, and the whole video was full of breakers, lockers and poppers. And that really, by that point, I was 18 years old, and I was like, Man, I've always wanted to do this. I really should learn. So thanks to the help of a friend at college, she pointed me in the direction of a well-known studio in London. Went to that. Started off doing breaking. Most people didn't know that. I was taking breaking classes for about 8 months, only because I didn't know the difference. I thought it was all the same thing. Yeah. And then eventually my passion went towards popping. So when I did start doing popping, so this was 1999, it was very much a breaking scene. It was very much, in fact, the scene was actually more one. Everybody that did all the styles were in that space. And in London, it was dominated by breakers. You had one or two poppers and one or two lockers, but they were kind of like a small majority amongst these breakers. There was in the breaking scene, there was a lot of people, a lot of university students were in the breaking scene at the time. And I realized because a lot of universities had societies, and so they had dance classes. So I think with this new sudden interest of street dance, it pulled in a new wave of interest. And a lot of them were coming through universities because the universities were holding classes. Maybe some of the dancers were at university and then they were teaching other people. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But then...
So when did you start seeing, like, when did you see popping the first time? When was the first time you saw popping, sorry?
Like in my face?
Yeah, like seeing it live. Like, when did you see it?
Well, as a kid, I grew up at the back end of it. So first of all, I remember just seeing older boys dancing on cardboard, but I was at the back end of that. I saw it in terms of consciously when I saw my teacher, Jimmy Williams, as a locker from the UK, and he was doing some popping in the class, and I was like, whoa. But between 99 to 2000 and 2002, all we had seen in the UK was just Breaking the Movie, a couple of secret videotapes that were going around that if you knew the people, you had a chance to see some old footage of the Electric Boogaloo's. So I had a guy called... Yeah, trust me. Like I had a guy called... Yeah, it was like drugs. I had a guy called Lee who started mentoring me. And he kind of gave me... no, he didn't mentor... Well, he did. He took me under his wing and just kind of provided me with some music and some cassettes of like VHS of like the Electric Boogaloo's when they came to France. Then in 2002, I went to Paris, and that's when I first met Waleed, Poppin' Pete, Sally Sly, Stiga, Iron Mike, Original Matt. Because it was actually Original Matt that invited me.
But what event was it? Like all these people in one place. What event was it?
I can't remember the name of it, but it was in France. It was a big event in 2002. I can't remember the name, but that's what I met Salah. That's where I saw all of these guys in one room.
I think it's the one that Bruce talked about. He did talk about an event back in the 2000s. Maybe that's the one. He first got the EBs in Europe. Yeah, maybe that one.
Well, yeah, it could be that one. So at that time, it was just Pete by himself. He'd come as a guest, but like it was the first time I saw high level popping. So now imagine it. Been dancing for just over 2 years. It was me, my friend James painting.
Oh my God, the Cobra guy.
Yeah, I mean, James started with me. In fact, he came just after me. That's how we got to know each other. He came on because I was at the studio and I was doing a wave, and he saw me and he goes, how do you wave like that? Because he was already doing it in a dance school outside London, but he goes, the teacher doesn't teach me like that. So I said to him, yeah, I was showing him. He goes, how do you get the definition? So I was showing him how I did it. And he was like, right. And then from that point, every Saturday we'd meet up after the studio. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, 1 week, I just looked at him wave and I thought,
he's one of the best around, man. He used to be.
Yeah, I was like, where did this come from? Because when I first met him, he weren't doing that. It's like something just clicked and it just went to the next level. So yeah, me and James, I mean, here's an interesting thing. Me and James, in terms of the scene as the popping scene in London as we know it today, there's a few feeder people. I mean, again, and I'm saying this because this doesn't get told. Often you tend to hear, I would say, in the UK, often a quite one-sided version of the scene. But actually, what doesn't get told is when we got into the scene, there was a few key people. There's a guy called Flexi Stu, who right, exactly. People don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I would say, and this is the thing, I would say I would argue that he was probably the link between the old school and the mid school in the UK.
Okay.
So he's a very, very important person. So there's Flexi Stu, and then he kind of he was teaching a guy called Rob, who actually is the manager for Brook and for Marvel. He's their manager. He learned from Flexi Stu. And then me, James Painting, we was around, and then there was another guy, Chris Stein, he's American, but he lives in England. At that point, I would say the scene as we know it today started with these key people, and then started to kind of grow and then expand. So if you look at a lot of what was going on in the London...
Just a second. So what are we talking here? We're talking 2006, 2007, or even earlier?
Yeah. So that movement, that I would say that was 2000, 2001.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. Chris Stein started... Chris Stein, although he's American that lives in London, he was studying in France for a couple of years. So he learned from Waleed and some French dancers at the time there. So when he came back to London and we'd met him, he had already had some knowledge from these guys. Flexi had already had some knowledge from these guys called the Twilight Players, some Asian guys that just lived just outside London. Myself, I came in because I saw stuff on TV and then wanted to take class. So I then was learning bits, and then I started to take a little bit from Chris Stein and bits from Flexi. And me and James were kind of then starting to do bits. Then I was quite proactive. So when I went to France because I became mates with Original Matt. He invited me to come to France. So I took some of those guys with me. Chris knew Waleed, so he just went and was hanging out with Waleed. And that's how I went. I met Waleed through Chris. That was 2002, and then 2003, I was looking for Poppin' Taco because I always wanted to meet him, but at the time that I tried to meet him, I couldn't. I was ill, so I couldn't travel. But I got in touch with Poppin' Pete, Mr. Wiggles, and eventually Skeeter Rabbit. I went out to Vegas in 2003 and spent time with Pete, and that's where I met Skeeter Rabbit in person. So again, James came with me. Me, James, and another friend of mine called Becky. We went out there. We done that. By that point,
did you stay at their place? No. Once you had that trip? No.
We stayed in a hotel where we met this other dancer from Vegas who looked after us. So whenever here's a cool story. So when I met Pete, and Pete was telling us stories about whatever, and he was telling us stories about Skeet. So at this point, I'm thinking, I've seen the videos of Skeet, but then I'm thinking, man, the way he was talking about all these gangster stories, and I'm thinking, oh God, this guy sounds scary. So I'm thinking, whoa. Anyway, what Pete didn't tell us is that he told Skeet that we was in town. So we're at the hotel and we get a phone call. So I pick up the phone and I'm thinking, who's calling us in Vegas? So I'm like, hello. And then I'm listening to the voice. I'm like, is this Skeeter Rabbit? And then he's like, that's right, homeboy. So I'm like, and then I'm like,
holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. And he's like, he goes, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, we're just chilling. He goes, okay, take down this address and meet me here. So it was like, okay. So I'm excited, but I'm scared because all the stories that Pete's told us, I'm like, oh my God.
The guy's gonna kill us.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, we get to the place. We got there early. He then turns up in his big SUV truck, gets out the car, huge dude, and he's like going, and I was like, which one's Alex? I'm like, yeah, I'm Alex. He's like, yeah, cool. And then he's like, yeah, let me see what you got. And I'm like, okay. But he was so passionate about the dance. He gave us a free private lesson, free of charge. He let us record it. In fact, he got very tearful when he was talking about his love for dance, and that really hit us because I'm thinking, you've got this grown man, huge frame, fully masculine, but yet he's getting very tearful when talking about what dance means to him. He was talking about how much Boogaloo Sam and how much Poppin' Taco really impacted his dance and how they changed and it was like, okay. So that was a massive emotional changing point for me, was meeting Skeeter Rabbit.
I think everybody says that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think everybody says that about Skeeter Rabbit. I never got to meet him, unfortunately, and may he rest in peace. I remember outside of Summer Dance Forever,
Yeah.
Of course, we talked, right? We had a chat ourselves.
That's right.
But I had a chat. I had a chat about him with Otis. It's this Otis Funmeyer. There's this guy that does the YouTube videos, right?
I know. Yeah.
Cheers to him. He said that. He said it was great. He was a huge man, loving to dance. He hated when you said something that he was doing wrong. So you can't say that. But but nevertheless, a really lovable guy, right?
Oh, totally. But it's funny because at the time I was still looking for Popping Taco, because again, this was the guy that I've now realized this is the dude I saw in the movie. And when I was a kid, whoever this Mexican dude was, I wanted to dance like him. So at this point, I was in contact with him on the phone, but we hadn't met. So anyway, Taco spoke to me on the phone. He goes, "Look, Alex, I'm in France. I'm in this place at this time. You can come down and meet us." So bearing in mind, the internet wasn't, social media wasn't like that. So we still didn't really know what he looked like now, because we only have the image of what he looked like then. So anyway, we booked a flight. We went to Grenoble, which was in the east of France, and the whole of the Boogaloos were there. So was Sam there? I don't think Sam was there. Sam was there. So yeah, we did meet Sam, but I didn't see him teach. And we came into the hall. We just saw, we just missed his class because we were late because we got lost. But we didn't know what he looked like. So I remember we came into the sports gym and we're like, okay, people just messing around dancing. Who is he? What does he look like? And then we just saw one guy in the corner just went, and I looked at my friend. I said, "That's him." So we said, "Let's go over to him." Yeah, we said, "Let's go over to him." And then I was like, "Bruno," because that's how we were speaking on the phone. Bruno, and he's like, "Yeah, Alex." I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Oh man, lovely to meet you." We spoke, and it was just that from there. And I guess I'm saying all of this to really say that the pursuit to meet the people who had the stories about the history, you had to do it that way. You know, there was no kind of, you had to search for them, and so. With each and every person that we worked, we had to search for them. You know, if you wanted to go to, like, we went to B-Boy Summit, you had to go to LA and you didn't know nobody, and you heard these names. You heard Boppin' Andre, Flat Top. You were seeing them all there for the first time. Slick Dog, all of them. You were just like, oh, so that's such a no, because we didn't have any other reference point for these guys. You know.
I feel like what people don't understand about especially about this dance form is that it's such a big difference when you see it live than when you see it on videos. It's unimaginable. Like it's
100%.
At first, like as you said about this, right? Because I believe most of us do this the same. So I traveled a lot. I was working, getting my job, getting my money, saving my cash.
Can I just stop you for a minute?
Sure.
You know, we've been on here for an hour. It cuts off, or does it continue now? What happens?
No, it's not cutting us off, and I don't know why. Jesse actually told me that last time, and it doesn't cut me off at all. So maybe it's because I have a business account, but I'm not sure is that the issue. Maybe they changed something. So I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to tell you, but keep going. Yeah, sorry.
If it's gonna pop up, that's gonna cut us off. I'm just let you know, and then we can start again over. Okay.
No problem.
So yeah, I was saying that. So you save money, you travel, right? And the difference is you can actually talk to people live, right? So that's when I realized, because that's when I got into really this dance thing. At first is seeing it live and how it looks in person. So I was hooked. But the second thing was everybody's so, I don't want to say everybody's so nice, because we both know that's not really true. But as a general statement, it is.
Yes.
So as a general statement, because we have the same interest thing, we can talk. I'll just have a beer, just come close to you. Hi, what you doing? I'm good. What about you? Let's go, And you have this type of, it's like feeling back in high school for a second.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what it's exactly that. So but you said about Taco, I really want to ask you this. I swear to God, I never understood, and most of the people that I talked with don't. How did Taco get that good? Like everybody knows the stories about him. Everybody knows, when people met Taco, and even back in the days when he was dancing in high schools. And I think I heard the podcast of Infinite Force.
Yeah.
But I never really knew where did he get dance for? How he got that good.
Well, his history, his brief history is he is a member of the Mysterious Poppers. So Mysterious Poppers it's funny because the original boss of Mysterious Poppers was actually an ex-member of the very first, one of the early lineups of Electric Boogaloos, but he was too young, so he couldn't really stay in the group. So he did and his whole thing was the cobra and snaking. So Taco learned to snake first. That was his first dance. Then when he was making a name for himself with his snaking, the Boogaloo saw him in high school. So it's funny, we forget these people were teenagers. They were kids.
Yeah.
They came to his school. They called him out. Taco store.
It was just fun back then, I think.
Absolutely. And Taco saw Boogaloo Sam and Pete for the first time, and vice versa. They saw him. So Taco started learning popping from Pete. And then obviously, as time went on, Taco also formed a good relationship with Boogaloo Shrimp, and Boogaloo Shrimp was very much on the robot, the bopping and animation. So there was like a bit of a natural exchange. I think, personally speaking, and I think a lot of people, especially of my generation that knew Taco personally, especially those in France, my personal opinion, Taco is a genius. So we use the words quite lightly.
Strong word, Alex.
That's insane. But the reason why I say genius is it's not just about, you know what, it's a bit like when you talk about Messi and, you know, when you have the conversation between the footballer Messi and Ronaldo, they say Ronaldo is a definition of someone that works super hard. Mm-hmm. Messi is just someone that just gets it. And I think Taco's the same. When you look at his system of movement, when I was with him and had a chance to look at how he moves, the question I always understood was, how do you get to this place? Like, what allowed? I see that connection. I know. And I see this. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by the genius side. Where it's like, if I look at like Pete, for me, when it comes to the pop, again, he's another genius. But what I will say the difference is, with Pete, you can begin to see, well, okay, I can see how you can get to that. I don't know.
His journey,
I won't get to it, but I can see the journey. Whereas when I look at Taco, I can't even understand like what
how the hell he got there?
I think the first time I saw him like really go crazy, in my head I remember it was 2010, and that year, for whatever reason, he was just going off. And I remember looking and thinking, what is this? Like, it's crazy. But if someone asked me to explain what I just saw, I wouldn't even know what to even say I saw. It's mad. You know what I mean? So that's how I describe Taco.
If I were to give you to request a name of today's generation of somebody like this, can you give me a name in your head? Right? What does pop up in your head right now?
What, for someone that is the equivalent of that version, you mean?
Yeah, almost, or at least close to that, yeah. That you just think, like, this guy just gets it for no. And how the hell does he get it this easy? Like, do you have a name?
Green Tech. I think Green Tech.
You think Green Tech, okay.
In terms of
I would agree with that.
Yeah, his level of funk and expression is just extremely intuitive. I mean, yes, there's certain attributes. He's short, so he's allowed, so his center of gravity is lower, but that's a physical thing. But just his understanding of expression artistically and character-wise, that to me, I look at that and I think that can't be taught. That's just...
Yeah. I feel like his self-trust is something out of this planet as well. Yeah. That helps a lot, you know. And for Green Tech, for example, I believe everybody just asked it once in their life, just, you know, ask this question: when did he have the time to get that much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I don't even think it's even because the thing is, like, I know people that have worked, when Green Tech was living in England for a little while, actually. A lot of people don't know that. He was living in London for a short while. And then he lived in Wales. And so when he was in Wales, he was training with some of my Welsh friends that I've got over there. And, you know, they were saying that, you know, they'll train with him every day. They'll go to a studio, but he'll be late. He's quite chaotic in that way.
I know. Yeah.
You know, his training discipline, his training structure wasn't necessarily structured. It was just like, well. But as soon as he's gone, he's there. So I think he's one of those dancers that you look at and you think, it's not fair. It's not fair.
I would agree with you. Retro said he's coming from the b-boy background. Yeah, that has to be a thing, because I mean, those legs are something out of the ordinary. And I don't believe he doesn't feel the pain. I don't believe that won't have repercussions in the future. But
yeah, for sure.
As of right now, the man is a machine, right? So we got to respect that. It doesn't matter the personality and what's going on with it outside of the dance.
Well, I mean, same with Pete. I mean, Pete's knees are kind of like, you know, he will tell you now that his knees are not, you know, he's in pain a lot and he has to do a lot to maintain.
He did have surgeries as well, if I recall, Pete.
Yeah, I'm not too. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, you can tell me.
I believe I saw some video of him when he mentioned that he had. Or it was a comment on this video. It doesn't matter. I don't remember exactly, but he said about some surgeries.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I didn't know that. And obviously, like, you know, with Taco, like, obviously his health, his physical being is not where. You know, he hasn't. Unfortunately, his body's not where it was. You know, and you know, it's sad because on some level,
yes. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, sometimes I wish that that other people would see at least what I see. That's just me being selfish. I wish they saw what I saw. But at the same time, on another level, there's something I feel quite sacred about not having it been exposed, because sometimes, you know, in this world of where there's so much information, everything becomes disposable. So
absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
People just neglect it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like, if you look at someone, like, as much as I was, you know, Taco is someone that inspires me, and there's lots of people that really inspire me. But if I look at someone like Taco, who's had a huge influence on my dance, I'm not confident nowadays that if you put someone else's head on Taco and that person was to do what he did in a battle setting, I don't think people will get it, because I think what people kind of look for in battles and what they deem as successful or good is very different now. So it's about that physical agility. It's the pop.
I agree. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, I think I had a discussion with Enox last time we talked, but it's something out of the human nature if you think about it. Football got like that. They're like machines right now. Bodybuilding got like that. Tennis got like that. We want to see monsters. We want to see things that surprises it, but not a bit. They have to be, you know what I mean, absolutely stupid, out of this world. So people expect that. So once, even with this dance thing, I mean, we can have fun, we can session and everything, have a beer, but at a point we're just fighting. So we're having a battle. That's what I mean. And cash is in. That's a sport. And once it's a sport, it's another industry, and it's another industry. You gotta compete, man.
Well, it's interesting because the thing is, even like, I mean, talking about the relationship with dance in the scene, like, you mentioned football, and I think football is an interesting one, because if you look at, like, when you're playing football in the park with your friends, you're not being compared to Messi or Ronaldo. You're being appreciated in the space that you're playing with now. So, for example, if I'm playing football in the park and I'm doing some good skills or score a good goal, I get respected for whoever's there is getting respected for what they bring to the table. I feel like street dance, it doesn't feel like that's happened yet. It did and it didn't. It did, but now it hasn't, because now we're moving towards this kind of higher level competitism. Like I said to you before, I feel like everybody's being compared to the best clip that they've seen. So you judge my techniques based on the very best, as opposed to judge it based on what's happening right here in the now. Give the person the respect in that space right now, because the best person in the school playground at school at football will not be compared to the person playing Sunday league football. So I feel like in the reform of the scene, because I think the Olympics will cause for a lot of kind of reforming. I think what I personally would like to see is a space where people who do it at the Olympic level, you see them and you respect them at that level. Then people who just want to club and do it, you respect at that level. But, you know, respect everything in its context. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. But there's excellent, if you think about it, there's an issue of understanding. So just a second, Retro said, to add to that, a lot of people's talents remind people of their heroes in whatever field. Oh yeah, I agree with that. That's a good call, actually.
Big up, Metro.
That's a good call, actually. Yeah. Big up, yeah. The thing that I understood, especially with popping, for example, because we are poppers, right? So I'll give you an example with Juan, right? I don't want to take anything from him. The guy's a fucking machine. Everybody knows that. He's a monster. But what I realized is why people get him. Everything's really, really, really graphic. Do you know what I mean? Like, the pops are powerful, clear, and in the right sound, that every fucking uncle back can understand it, right? Yeah. So it has to be on a point that is so graphic, it's so simple, but difficult.
Yes.
That, you know what I mean? That a broad audience can get it. So when you go deeper into this, like in every art form, every form of work, doesn't matter actually. If you go too deep in it, so I'm playing with, you know, rhythms inside rhythms, or I'm playing with things like that, you know, once you get like that, I feel like people don't understand it. It just goes away. So I'm comparing you to Juan, for example, right? Like even right now, if I'm just gonna, okay, who's this Alex guy or Raul guy, right? And I'm checking. So he does a buzz away. It's okay. Takes a little bit, pops a little bit. I don't know. Compared to the guy that I'm imagining, I mean, bro, you gotta work. Do you know what I mean? But I don't see the other side of the story. But I feel like though, and maybe, I feel like if we let our egos out of the discussion, I feel like we do this with other domains as well. We do that. So for example, I don't know, a drawing, maybe a video, maybe something like that. You know what I mean? Not dance, but something like that. I believe we're doing that too in some domains that we're not familiar with.
So that you mean? So you mean that you feel that they are comparing to at the highest standard?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a bad thing because again, you have your perception of what you think is good is based on what you've seen. So I do think to a degree, it's always going to be there. However, I also say that you give them, it's almost, I think it's almost happening at the same time. You're doing that because that's your reference, but then you're also appreciating what's going on at that space. So, for example, I remember I got into, in 2004, I got into a conversation on Facebook, which got me into a lot of stick with people, because what I was trying to say is that we're losing this sense of support and appreciation for what people do. For me at the moment, the scene that really does it well is the crump scene. They support people regardless of what their standard is. You know, they get behind, and it's a synergy thing. And I think what I'm saying is when I made the comment, people kind of saw it as, yeah, but if someone's whack, they're whack. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, just how we're talking right now, when we're listening, we're nodding our head. We're kind of we're going yes. There's acknowledgement, there's appreciation. What you're saying might not be the most insightful thing ever, but I'm still responding and I'm still appreciating it.
Oh, I know where you're going. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that right there at its basic creates positive communication. So we can speak at this level. You're not saying anything game changing. I'm not saying anything game changing, but that appreciation means that we form a good relationship and it builds. And I feel like that is happening less and less in the dance scene now. It's almost like I'm only going to give you props. I'm only going to respond to you if what you're doing is blowing my mind. There isn't this base level appreciation, which I believe builds communities from the bottom up.
Yeah, that's necessary, man. I agree. We don't let go of our egos. That's what is going on, I believe. And when you say this, but he's whack. Yeah, but if you think about it, maybe he's just been dancing for like a month and he's dancing right now the way you've been dancing after 6 months, but you never think about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Ask the guy. See what he thinks about it. See how he feels.
But you see, the thing about it is it's sad that we have to even discuss this, because at a certain point, so at least when I got into the scene, that wasn't an issue. You looked at someone, you can see that person wasn't that great, and you gave them respect accordingly. So for example, it might be that you've seen someone that's only been dancing for 2 months and you're like, okay, yeah, man, yeah, do your thing. Versus you see someone that's been doing something for 3 years and you're like, okay, but both still has a response. The tone's going to tell you where you see they're at. You know what I mean? As opposed to what we see now, which is like over-gassing of somebody, over-appreciation of someone else, and then the other person, you just kind of like, and that's your time to get out your phone. That's your time to start talking to your friend. And then you're almost you're disrespecting this special space.
Yeah. In a way, if you think about it, in a way, ciphers became social media in this respect. So in that small time that people are waiting there, they're just waiting for the best. They want to go inside, do their stuff, get out, have a beer, and go to sleep. That's it.
Absolutely.
I agree. You're losing, but I only agree with you because I only saw a couple of events that are really were really about the community, about the dance, about, you know what I mean, like beautiful, having fun social events. If I haven't seen those in my life, I would never agree with you because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because my perspective is not here, it's not real, so I couldn't tell. You know?
Yeah. And absolutely. And I guess from my perspective, because I've been doing it for 20 years and seen the changes, I'm talking from that perspective, you know, and I'm also talking from the place of being burnt myself and seeing it happen to me and understand, okay. So, you know, again, we all come with different perspectives and stuff like that. And I guess we can get into an argument with what is right and what's wrong. Well, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I think where I struggled with it with the scene was sometimes when the scene would speak about this, they talk about this as though it's a community, but when they behave, their behavior is much more about business and corporation. Yeah. So corporation's about climbing the ladder. It's about picking your friends based on who's popular, who's part of which crew, and community is about inclusion and making people feel part of something. So I often felt, and it used to frustrate me listening to sometimes some of the discussions in street dance forums, because it's almost like, okay, you're talking about this like it's a community, but your behavior is that of corporation. So we have to make a decision. Either one, which one is it? Or two, can they both exist together? And if they do, how does it look like? And I think now that we got the Olympics happening, I think that even more that question is important, because if you're not careful, it's going to go down completely one way. But this is a great time. Fast, absolutely. Simply because the Olympics is an established organization. They're good at being corporate. They've been doing that for years. That's all they know. So either the dance scene has to now have those conversations to organize themselves. So when this train happens, you're in a position to put the correct input into that space, while at the same time creating spaces that allows for the community to exist beside it. So there's no longer this fight between the two; they just coexist together.
Yeah, I think I talked with Jess about it before. I think it's a good and a bad thing, of course, like in everything in life, isn't it? Yeah. But what you said about this, that now you became more of a corporation than a community, I think it's the reason. I'm pretty sure it is, actually. We got proven that through this dance, at one point in your life, you can make money. So that's one thing, right? Everybody saw it, everybody tried it, everybody works for it, so it kind of works. So I'm thinking right now that 99.9% of the dancers, at least at one point in their lives, has thought, maybe I can try making money out of this, right? So when you're trying to make money out of something, you want to be better than the other guy. Like you put your CV, you got to be better than the other guy, right?
Yeah.
So in this regard, it's a good thing in a way, because you're trying to be better. You're pushing the art form. That's good. It's good. Mm-hmm. Just get better. Do your stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But on the other way, of course, you're losing that side of it. Because the reason why you go to an event, and it's true, because for me, when I got into this dance as a macro point, right, in popping, the main reason was battles. I didn't know ciphers were going. I'm even
amazing.
Like I've never seen them. Yeah, you don't see ciphers on camera, dude. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't see ciphers on camera. And of course, it's because, lighting and I don't know, people never figure out how to make that desirable to watch. But you never see ciphers on camera. You see the battles. Yeah. So when I went there, I remember the first time I went there was the first second Infinite Force, I believe. So I traveled there to Poland. So it was the first time, of course, I saw the Poppers live. My mind was just...
So what year was that then?
I think we're talking 2018, maybe 2017, 2018 or something like that. Okay. 27. No, it's worse. No. I think it's worse, Alex. I think it's, I think it's 2016 or some shit like that. I forgot how long I've been dancing, but something like that. It doesn't matter. 16, 17. So the first thing that I saw was, I will see these guys battle. I'll see. It's like watching a cage fight, from YouTube. Yeah. That's what you want to see. But then when I got there, I saw there's a lot more to the story, and there's a lot more to the story that's not shown on social media. Or even if it's shown, it's my job as a consumer to find it, to crave it, to search for it,
Yeah, that's really interesting because when I first got into dancing, I didn't see a proper battle like that until 2002 when I went to Paris. And again, it was high level. And in terms of London, the first popping battle that happened in that generation was 2005. So you can imagine that's 5 to 6 years of just cypher culture before any battle happened. And it's funny
did you do it for the money? That's the question here. I'm sorry for interrupting you. It's essential.
There was no concept of money. Like
that's what it is, man.
Yeah, it was like at that time when it happened in 2005. That was the only battle of the year. So nobody knew what that was going to look like or feel like, because it just hadn't happened before. It was literally this. Like my friend Anthony, he was part of our crew. He won, And then it was like, oh, you win something. Okay, cool. And then I won the next year. I was UK champ. So that was 2006. Again, it was just, first of all, it was just a space to see everybody come out. You wanted to show off your popping to people that you hadn't seen before. That was the motivation. We wasn't saturated with battling. And also, like I said, this is where I guess making money from dance becomes quite problematic, because sometimes you can be sold a vision without understanding who you are in this. So one of the things I definitely learned was this. Yes, you can win battles, you can raise your profile, you can start teaching workshops, you can start traveling all over. But like for me, what I learned not quickly, it took me a long time, is that I realized I'm just not passionate about battling. That's just not that's not something that interests me. Battling in the way that it's kind of presented never really interested me. However, I became UK champ, so my reputation was built from winning the battle. So I now had to kind of live up to something that was never really my passion. But I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm slacking because this seems to be what it is. So now you're going down this hole and you're not really fulfilling the relationship. For me, I'm a movement geek. So I love the idea of just understanding how to create this illusion. I love looking like a robot. That's what got me going. I love sharing and teaching. But those things weren't necessarily giving you the profile and the kudos. So you then start questioning, well, if this is what people want, they want to win battles, maybe that's what I want to do. So I'd also argue that the concept of success in the street dance scene is very two-dimensional, because it's very much based within this. And the problem with that is this, especially from the battle point of view, you're always going to have one winner. So until then, everybody else is just chasing. And if you're coming for, and often a lot of dancers are often emotionally challenged, broken people who have their own story. You're coming into this space.
Most of them, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, most of them, yeah.
So you're coming into this space. Maybe some people are naturally competitive, so straight away they're in their element. But if you're not in your element, but you love the dance form, and you're being told, actually, the only way that you're going to be somebody is if you be this type of somebody, and that's not really who you are, but you have no other choice. Straight away, you've got broken people fitting into something that doesn't fit them, and they came into this because they were included, but now they feel excluded because they're not really doing what it is that they signed up for. So it's a problem. So I think that there needs to be more conversations about what success looks like in street dance, and maybe less emphasis around trying to make money from this dance. And I only say that because actually some people are just happy to get a job, earn some money, and dance in their free time, rather than it becoming a 9 to 5.
It's surprising that actually it's a lot of people that prefer that, man.
Yeah.
And you can think of it like, for example, for me, what I've been doing now, especially this COVID period, right? I had a normal job. I was working from home most of the time, but if not, I was working from the office. And then you go and then you train. Right. The training is more productive because you got to focus it in a shorter period of time, which is actually not short. That's in our head. At least for myself, I realized it by that, because you can make let's say 1.5 hours, doesn't matter with stretching and everything, but that's gonna equal 6 hours of yesterday of training. Do you know what I mean? If the focus is there and everything is there. So going back to what you said, because I really enjoy that. For example, for me right now, I'm starting to, and I actually love it, to get into waving more, right? And that's...
We got Maggie.
Now you have fans.
Yeah. I got the fans. Big up Maggie, man. Wicked, big love. I meant to send her a message. I'll send you a message afterwards. That's another conversation. Go on.
I was actually going into that because I talked about this waving art form, right? In particular, and I said that it fits more the theater type of side.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. That's what I want to do with it in the future. Doesn't matter when. I'm not rushing. Okay. Yeah. So that's one type of one thing. Second of all would be, I don't know, commercials and things like that, right? For example, robot and popping and everything, right? So what would you say is the second option for this? So aside from battling, what would you say is the option that maybe in the future we can build up, so that that's the point, that's the way you make your reputation, that's the way you become good, if good even exists, doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. So I'll answer it by talking about where my head is at the moment. So I've always
been with the flow, Alex.
Yeah, sure. I've always been passionate about teaching. I've always been passionate about sharing with young people and seeing them grow and stuff like that. And again, that's another topic. But I think right now the UK are we're failing as a UK popping scene. We're failing at inspiring the young poppers, and I think there's 3 reasons for that. But I don't think that right now we've not done a good job of that. But also, just from me kind of stepping outside the box, because for a while the scene was becoming quite stifling for me. I was getting quite frustrated, so I started to branch out. I had a chance to meet some really interesting people who had nothing to do with the dancing, but they included me and might utilize my dance skills in different spaces, corporate spaces, looking at how dance can impact mental health, looking at dance and digital technology. So I think there's a lot of options for us, but we have to think outside the box about what that is. Then that means that the space of ciphering and the community then becomes left alone to just be that. Because the problem is, I think one of the problems is if the community is a space where people are trying to use it as their platform to promote their work, people are trying to compete, to climb the ladder, other people are just coming here to chill. There's too much energy, and then the community doesn't operate as a community anymore, because all of a sudden you got all these different multi-agendas.
Yeah.
If people, do you know what I mean? I think
I know what you mean.
It should be. I feel like the community would operate, and again, I don't know it because I need to see it actually happen. But I feel like the community would operate if it was just a community, just in the same way that I use the analogy of buses, and it's something I've used a lot. Buses sit in a bus garage. But then when you're going off into your different destinations and different routes, you're going off to take different people from A to B. And that's your job. During the day, you go off and you do your job. And then you come back and everyone comes together. So the problem at the moment is the community space has now become the corporate space, because in this cipher, everyone's trying to show. Do you know what I'm saying?
That was a good one.
So
wow.
It's compromising what you're saying you're doing. You know, and then all of a sudden the people that are coming. So again, think about this. People who are coming from a mainstream lifestyle, they don't feel included. They feel excluded. So they come to the dance scene because the scene feels like family and I'm included. And as soon as I enter into this, I feel like I'm in a 9 to 5.
You're never good enough. Yeah.
There you go. So you're jumping from one trauma to another trauma.
But I have that. I believe I have that myself, and everybody has it. So I agree with you. That's actually a strong, valid point. What you said there.
You know what I mean?
You feel like you're never good enough, but now you have that thing that you're never good enough at, and I'm gonna work for it. So okay, the dance is kind of trying to keep that. What you're saying? So they're trying to keep the ciphers going on, no cameras on them, not all the time, but that's the purpose of it, right? And then you got the scene of the battle thing, right? Going on with the lights, with the cameras and everything. Retro said, same thing happens in music. Exactly, yeah, good call, exactly. Awesome call, actually. So they're trying to keep that. They're trying to keep that cipher thing going on, but because you go with the mentality of it's gonna be a contest, I'm gonna show what I trained like a dog for 4 or 5 fucking years, doesn't matter, right? You don't even have the patience to go into that cipher because you're not interested anymore. You can't wait to destroy somebody. And if you don't destroy somebody, you gotta be depressed and just so it's kind of a drug cycle, isn't it?
Absolutely. Do you know what? Frantic said something to me really interesting when he came to London. He said he noticed that when he came to Europe, that he noticed that people's mentality was that when you had ciphers happening at an event, everyone's holding back because they want to save it for the battles. Where he said in America, which is something I noticed, in America, people are going all out in the ciphers because they know that's where it's at. And the battle is just another opportunity. But you see, the thing about this is again, I mean, I don't know what the answers are, bro. I don't know what the answers are, because the problem is, as you slightly said, battles is what is televised. Ciphers isn't televised, and it's difficult to really capture on TV the magic of a cipher. So in some ways, you're reinforcing the idea that you're reinforcing the concept that what do you call it? You're reinforcing the concept that this is where it's at by default. Not that you're doing it on purpose, you're just reinforcing it. So I don't know what the answers will be.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, sorry, that you mentioned Frantic, because he was the first guy that pushed me into a cipher. That was the first time that I got into a cypher. He pushed me.
Is that how you got? You got pushed in. That's how I got pushed into as well. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So now that you said this about battles and ciphers, for example, for me, I was a lot more panicked and anxious to get into a cipher than I was into a battle. I don't know why. In a battle, it's simpler if you think about it as a maybe public kind of way. I don't know exactly. You're paying your 1 minute. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna go in, fuck you all, I pay for it. Yeah.
That's interesting.
If you think of, you can think it like, if you think it that way, I'm paying for my 30 seconds. So if somebody says you whack, fuck you, I paid for it. Do you know what I mean? Wow. It kind of works like that.
Yeah, I hear that.
So it kind of works like that. It's my right to do it, and that gives me the I don't know, courage to actually do it the way I like it and not think about it. But when you get into a cipher and you see all these people having fun and shit, in the beginning, I think we're going to what you're saying. You don't feel welcomed enough.
Yeah, but that's mad. You know, that's mad that you said it, because I don't have, like you said, I've paid for that space. I don't have that relationship, but that's because I got into the dance 5 years without a competition.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that's really fascinating that you say that. And again, it's no right and wrong. It's just fascinating that that's
no, it's just discussion, because that's what we're having this. Yeah. That's why I'm making this, man. I want people to understand that there's more parts to a thought.
Absolutely.
Everybody has a thought. Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, I don't know. See, again, so this is something that I've struggled with, and I'll say it anyway. I think maybe as street dancers, we have to get used to the idea that actually Olympics is going to help to bring breaking back relevant for a period of time.
Well,
how that looks is not going to be the same as the 1970s or the 80s. So from a historical point of view, the story for a lot of people, it's not even going to be relevant. So this is, and what I'm trying to say is this: is that you know, obviously they talk to, you know, you hear OGs talking about, you know, this is what we did back then and stuff, and it's very important to understand that, because it gives you the whys to how the dance is done. But for a lot of people now, the newer generation, that's not the reality. It's a very different type of reality. So, for example, if you're inspiring that kid that comes from the countryside, that sense of intensity that would drove young people from inner city, poor, deprived area where there was a whole political problem happening, it's not the same now. So what I'm saying is, in many ways, street dance culture, in the way that we celebrate it in our bubble, it's irrelevant to the mainstream culture. So if you look at in London, the mainstream culture for young people in London is the African music with African social steps. That's what's organic right now. Street dance now, it's happened, and now we have to structure it to keep it moving. So now I think the conversations around how do we do our best to preserve the community spaces, it can never be organic in the way that we want it. Not that it can never be, but the organicness we have to do something in order to ensure that we keep certain things that we say that we want to keep. So, for example, I think there's a sense of active nurturing that we have to do. Back in the 80s and in the 70s, you wouldn't have necessarily needed to do the active nurturing, simply because people understood this is a social oppression happening, and the fact that me and you are in this space means that we're in this together. That was a narrative. So it didn't mean that I have to start thinking about your well-being. It doesn't mean I have to start thinking about, but now we're in a different time. I think we have to now start thinking about these things if we want to see the culture continue. Because, you know, it's, some people will say, and some strong voices for example, in the UK would kind of say, people that came into the dance scene and fell off, they were weak. They were never passionate about the scene, and it's been said by very respected people, and it's a very toxic and very dangerous thing to say, because actually,
please go on. No, I was just going to say that most of the people from outside the UK will consider the UK dance scene, especially in popping. I don't know about the rest of them because I'm a popper. The more aggressive side of it, so a more aggressive approach to this dance. So I don't know if it's relevant or not. I'm just, you know, maybe it's relevant to the discussion or not. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
but you can actually see it. Yeah, you can see it in some of the best ones from the UK. But aggressiveness means being competitive, and being competitive good means winning. So
absolutely,
it kind of circles around, doesn't it?
And how that came about, really, I would probably say DJ Renegade has probably been quite pivotal in terms of bringing that competitive energy to the community, and it was needed, because I think at the time, so when I was, for example, winning UK champs and stuff, I am not naturally a competitive person in that external way. However, my competitivism was in the fact that when I did a move, it was of a good quality, so people can tell that I've trained and practiced the move, but I wasn't external. What Renegade kind of was wanting to bring was to bring this much more this more aggressive energy that created presence, asserted yourself in the battle space, and that's kind of his. Do you know what? I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that one. I just think his narrative was more about, he was fed up of seeing people not make it through the first round, and he wanted to see people that get past the first round. So that was and actually he's achieved that. But I think the problem with that was a couple of things. It created just aggression. So aggression, not just aggression, but it meant that being aggressive was what was championed and valued. If you're not aggressive, then straight away you don't get looked at. Also, it meant that talking about the wider popping scene in terms of inclusion and understanding all these different elements to the scene, a lot of that got lost because people at that point only wanted to go for winning a competition, and that was the epitome of success in the popping scene. So you had a lot of dancers who were coming through who were good at battling, but actually if you look at the quality of what they did or the extent of their knowledge, it wasn't as good.
Yeah,
they were just good at battling.
Yeah, that's still going on now. Think about it. But, not all of them, of course, but it's still going on.
And that wasn't always the case here in the UK. I would say there was a very specific point when that changed. Beforehand, that wasn't the case.
Okay. Merry Christmas. Yeah, somebody said Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas! Big up, nice one.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, sometimes you feel like this type of dance and everything needs to get more chill. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking about that, because if you think about it, do you ever experience, I mean, you know, like when you dance high, for example, ever try that?
I don't smoke, so I've never danced high.
You don't smoke? Okay. So I remember I did it like 2 years ago. I don't know exactly when I went to Berlin, right? Because somebody else told me that when you do it as being high, or maybe we can relate this to alcohol, we can talk a little about this, I don't know exactly. The fact that it gets you so chill or something, you'll get more inspired, you'll be more creative, you'll do more stuff. You know, so I was like, okay, I'll try it once. Why not? It can't fucking kill me. You know, I'll try it. I'll dance high. I was actually with Jay, a friend of mine. We're having a cypher, a session. So it is in a sense true, because it's green tea is the king of doing this. Good call, of course. Because it is in a sense true, because it does that thing that alcohol does to you. You don't give a fuck about anything anymore. Not even if you try to. Not even if you try consciously to care. You can't. Right?
Yes.
So there's one thing. And, as pot is actually good for you in a lot of ways. You don't feel the pain. So now that you come to green tea, you don't feel the pain in the knees, for example. That might as well happen. Yeah, that's actually possible. So, but you sure as hell can dance aggressive. You can't battle like that. So I don't know how he does, man. Like, for me, for example, it doesn't work like that.
Again, it taps into, you have to look at people's characters. So if I talk about Dixon's from my crew, and then obviously he started the fight.
I know Dixon.
Right, yeah. Dixon is naturally a competitive person. So actually, for him to turn on the competitism and the aggression, it's easy for him because he's already in that space, in his element. If you look at someone like Brooke, I interviewed Brooke a couple of years ago on Instagram. Brooke came from a very sport competitive background. He's been doing it since he was a kid through swimming and diving and gymnastics. So that's his language of negotiation. He's not a competitive or confrontational person. He's quite an introvert, but actually he thrives. Yeah, he's quite an introvert. So he's not a man of many words until you get to know him. However, he thrives in competitivism because that's what he understands. So I think it's about understanding what is your element and what does it look like. It's taken me an incredibly long time to understand what that element is for me. Popping Taco was a big reference point for me, because if you look at often a lot of Popping Taco showcases, they often are quite the same. He does a wave, cobra, and it almost looks like he's not comfortable, but he's just going with what he knows. Those who have met Taco in the comfort of his home, for example, and then see him go off, it's not what you see on YouTube. It's a completely different Taco. So it's about finding what is your environment and what are the conditions that cause you to thrive. For me, what caused me to thrive is when I'm around people that have understood me as a dancer. And that's been a very important thing for me, because I went through a lot of being quite overlooked in the dance scene. Why? Because I wasn't necessarily consistently winning competitions the way certain people were. So all of a sudden, all these details that I knew I was good at, I started questioning them and thinking, maybe I'm not good at these details because I'm not winning competitions.
Oh my God.
So I'm now, I'm rejecting a part of me, which has always been part of who I am. I'm rejecting it. So I had to do some work to understand, no, I need to pull this back. And I now need to sell myself to people, because people believe you when you believe you. But because I went through such a stage of not believing myself, then that probably showed with my dancing where the conviction's gone. Whereas I had to find out to myself, okay, where do I thrive? What does it look like when I thrive? How does that feel on my body physically? Right, how can I now repeat this experience all the time, wherever I am?
I can relate to that a lot, man. I had those issues. I still have them sometimes. The moment I doubt my concepts, for example, that's what everything just goes to shit. And then when I get when I get in a good mental point, and I'm good with my concepts, I try to ask myself, why, what am I thinking now that I wasn't thinking then when I panicked? And the reason is you overthink shit. So maybe I'm not killing beats again, like too often. My pop is not as hard. I don't know, as you said. But I have all these ideas of these waves and shit that I know I'm proud of usually, but because the pressure of it. But it's also a thing of, as you said, as an individual, to not let it affect you at all.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
I believe this is training. You can train this.
Absolutely.
I'm working on this. I'm still working on this, but I believe you can train this to a point where you don't give a fuck and you just focus on your craft because you like it and that's it. Let's go. You know.
So now this is where dance becomes, and I'm just aware of the time because I have to go at 7 because I've got another Zoom to do. Just
I understand.
Know. Yeah, sure.
No problem.
Yeah, sure. But now this is, you've just raised something super interesting because now dancing becomes something more than just something you enjoy. This now becomes your reference point for beginning to understand a little bit about who you are. In this space, dancing has kind of exposed the fact that I live with a lot of lack of confidence. It exposed that there was a part of me that told myself I'm not good enough. It started to show parts of me that loved helping people and doing positive things, but maybe there was a part of it that was coming from a place of insecurity as opposed to, you know what I'm saying? So if you start to look after this art form properly, and what I mean by that is if you have an honest relationship with what it is that motivates you in this dance form can be a beautiful tool to start to build better versions of us. Rather than at a conscious level, we're there to achieve certain things. You know, for me, it might be I want to be the best. I want to get the pops, the way I want to win the competitions, all of those things. But the reality is, if you stick to this and you take time with this, it's going to start showing you who you are. And I think me as a dancer has shown me so much about myself. And sometimes it's made me look at parts of me that I didn't really want to face. But I'm glad. And now that I've understood those things, my dance has improved.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot, actually. Well, I'm sorry, I just stopped for a second because that was kind of too much. If you think about it.
Yeah.
It was a little bit, wasn't it? It was a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, because I was talking with Alex about this. Well, the thing that actually fascinated and I believe got me so deep into this was, I believe so, at least, that in general life, in day-to-day life, I'm not I'm actually a social person and everything's fine, you know?
Hang on one second.
Yeah, sure, bro.
Are you got a here? Yeah, no, we're going to be finishing. Oh. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we'll just wrap this subject up and everything's fine. It's all right. So usually, day-to-day, I'm actually a social person and everything, you know? I trust myself and everything. And I realized that in dance, I was the opposite end of the spectrum, completely.
Look at that. That's crazy.
So time and time, you know, when time passes, you understand that, yeah, you don't trust your dance. That's first thing. You don't trust yourself. And a lot of the moments you believed you trust before, you didn't.
Absolutely.
And you want to find out why. And
or you believed it on certain terms and conditions. So you only believe it if A, B, and C happened, rather than just...
Yeah, exactly.
So I think what you're talking about, Raul, is you're talking about acceptance now. And you say you're talking about, but actually we're talking about acceptance, because the reality is this: we all are learning to get better. I mean, it got to the point, bruv, where I got embarrassed to tell people how long I've been dancing for, because then you meet some Asian dancers and they've been dancing for 10 years and they're doing incredible things. But because I wasn't winning certain things, I felt embarrassed to say at this point, oh, I've been dancing for 15 years. Or people say, yeah, Alex is one of the OGs in London. And I didn't like it because I was embarrassed, because I'm telling myself, yeah, but I ain't done nothing. I ain't achieved nothing. And then I realized to myself, well, hang on a minute. If I'm really talking about myself like this, how do I expect anybody to respect my art form if I clearly don't respect my art form myself? Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think for me now, where I'm at with this dance form is, or where I want to take not just what I do, but I think kind of the legacy that I want to leave with other people around me is the care, the self-care that comes along with dancing. Because I think if we can take care of that, all the dancing, all the techniques, the culture, the history, that's fine. It's not going anywhere. It's going to happen. But my thing is, if people are comfortable in a space, you don't need to tell them to tidy their room. You don't need to tell them to, you don't need to tell them to preserve the culture, because you're going to preserve whatever has made you feel good. You're going to take time to look after that.
Exactly. You want to share what you remember nice.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? So my thing is look after the people, and then look after the people in the culture, and then that's the culture looked after.
Beautiful, dude. Damn, nice to say that. As a wrap up, what are you? Just let us know a little bit. What are you working on right now? What are your projects? What are you doing right now? How's the situation for you, and how's the plan?
Sure. Man, a lot at the moment. So at the moment, I've been working on an app with a team of people we call Combat, and the app is basically using principles within hip hop, whether that's through literacy and lyrics or dance movement, to basically improve people's experience, whether that's a learning experience, engagement experience, improving people's well-being. So it's kind of it's still in its early stages. We've been working on it for about 2 years. I was invited to be part of the project because of my knowledge on dance and stuff. But it's a very big project, and it's coming along together. So I'm doing that at the moment. I've been I'm doing so many different things. I'm trying to think right now. I've been working I'm doing a lot of local charity work in my area with the community, because our area is about to be upgraded. So I've been involved in helping out with that. I'm doing a lot of work around Black Lives Matter. I want to do some work where I can bring some education to schools and colleges and workplaces. So I'm talking to some people in corporate world, and they're teaching me a lot about how the corporate world thinks, so that when it comes to kind of education, how could we speak in a language that they understand?
How we can adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just love psychology. So I love meeting people, listening to people, and understanding how they think. Because without all of that, I can talk, but it's just noise until I understand how that person thinks, so I can speak their language.
Yeah, what resonates with them? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm doing lots, and I'm still keeping. I'm trying to be busy with this lockdown.
We all doing it. So I just want to say, this lockdown, how does it work right now? How's the status of it? You can't go out at all, or you just go to the shop, go to the pharmacy? How is it?
Sure. So they encourage you to stay at home. If you're meeting outside, they say that you're only allowed to meet one person. Non-essential travel stops. If you can, all shops have closed except those that providing for food and immediate care. So yeah, all the buses and trains are still running, but essentially you can't really do too much in the moment. They say that when you're walking around, you have to stay within your area. But again, it's very difficult to police that. And I also think that at Christmas time, because before they were going to give like a 5-day grace period where people can mix and match, but because
we heard about it. For Christmas, wasn't it?
But it's gone now.
No.
So now they're saying you can only. I think they're saying either that you have one day you can do it on Christmas Day, or I think they're saying that you can't do it at all. But I know that people are just gonna do their own thing.
Yeah, man.
They're just gonna do their own thing. So what about you? What's the situation in Romania?
Actually, now that you're talking about it, and the situation in the UK, I don't have anything to complain about, to be honest. As a comparison, I mean, so we're wearing masks. Everything's closed by 9 p.m. Right, so after 9 p.m., nothing's gonna be available. Only you can actually find some pharmacies and some gas stations that are gonna be open, so you can buy something emergency-wise. And after 11 p.m., if you're gonna walk around, you gotta have a paper, and it has to be a good damn reason and signed by yourself on, like.
So you can't say Tinder.
No, you really can't say I want to fuck something on the road. No, that doesn't work. It's kind of chill, I suppose. It was even better before because it was the elections, so that's the way everybody does it. We were expecting them to close us now, but it wasn't closed, so we're not full lockdown. It's like a restriction type of period, let's say.
Yeah. No, do you know what I mean? I think with England, I think we're in a very interesting place because. And I think it's probably the case everywhere. The culture of mistrust.
It is.
Something I put as a status. There's been such a culture of mistrust for so long, for years. And I think what's just happening now, it's now been heightened. It's now been heightened because of what's happening with all these kind of rules that don't make sense and yada, yada, yada.
People don't believe in, not even at all. You know what I mean? In the government.
Yeah.
I can't push myself to turn on the news. I swear to God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get fed up with it, but you have to because they have to get this new fucking law. Because if you go outside, they're gonna cut your dick off and shit. So you don't know what to expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is, I've just said to people, I come on the news. In fact, I don't watch the news. I just go on the website and just read the highlights because I don't need to know what Sarah up north is doing. I don't need to hear about Tony and his dogs. I just need to hear, do I need to put on a mask or do I need to take the mask off? That's all I need to know. And then after that, I just keep it moving because at home, like you said, I know like my mum, she's like a retired nurse and she's, one of the things she's always been talking about is you just got to take care of yourself. So one of the things that she's been kind of encouraging me to do, and I haven't done it yet, so I need to do it again. I used to do it. It's like you breathe in, you have some fresh menthol breathing, which is good for your system. Obviously, vitamins and stuff, which I do take. We've just got to take our own and wash your hands, man. I mean, you should have been washing your hands anyway. I don't know why we have to tell people to wash your hands.
Yeah. I agree with that. People should take more care of their health, man.
Yeah.
In general, you can have the fun part, but you got to keep the other one too.
I hear you. And messy. But anyway, bruv, listen, I've enjoyed this 2-hour talk. It doesn't feel like 2 hours.
You gotta kid him. It's, oh my God. It is 2 hours, damn.
This is what I'm saying to you.
That's good, man. Yeah, we touched on some really great subjects. So I'm proud of us, let's say like that.
Yeah, man, thank you. And, well done for doing this because, like I said, I haven't done it for a while and I want to do some more conversations. But I think at this moment in time, I'm just thinking how I can make it different. I haven't decided yet. So, well done for you for doing this,
Thank you. I actually, it's just got to keep on happening because it makes me happy. And this is the part that I want to leave. Yeah. So it's going to keep on happening because I love doing these things. Alex, thank you so much for accepting this, man. I can't wait to see you. I hope this thing is going to fucking end already and we can actually have it live properly with cameras and maybe have it, you know what I mean? It's going to be beautiful. And
I hold you to that.
Amen. Not a problem. I look forward to it. Just take care of yourself, okay?
Yes.
And we'll keep on talking. Okay.
Thank you, bro. Look after yourself and love to everyone over there in Romania that I know that just say hi to them for me, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, peace.
I'll talk to you later then. Peace.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you, man. Bye-bye.